changed this week, I think, too. But
Bow with me for a moment of prayer before we start this. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We realize that everything good in this world comes from you. We thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We thank you for these three men and what they represent. We ask that you continue blessing over them and watching over them, Lord. Lord, we thank you that we live in a country that we have the freedoms that we have, where we can do things like this. Lord, we ask that you continue blessing our country and our leaders. We ask that you let them make right decisions, Lord. We go through this night. We give you all the praise and the glory for everything. In your Son's most holy name. Amen.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jonathan Tuck, and I'm the president of MCEA. As president of MCEA, I would like to thank you for being here tonight. Also, if you're not a member of our association, I would encourage you to become a member of AEA. AEA has assisted all of us receiving our raises and stands behind us when we need them most. So, like I said, I want to encourage everyone to become a member of AEA. Tonight, we are fortunate in Marion County to have three highly qualified individuals running for superintendent. As we begin our question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone this is not a debate. Please remember, no questions are being asked from the floor. If your questions or concerns are not addressed tonight, please go directly to the candidates and ask them later. We will try to address as many submitted questions as possible as time allows. We've got 12 questions tonight. Our moderator will randomly draw a question or concern that has been submitted by the candidates to respond to. Myself and our Vice President, Mr. Barry Kerr, and Ms. Ginger Tittle Eatman will be assisting with the time each candidate will have a 2-minute time for introduction. We will start in alphabetical order, which will be McCarley, go down to Sutton, and then to Weatherly. I'd like to thank and introduce our moderator for tonight, Mr. Les Walters. Thank you, Les, for being our moderator tonight.
I was in the newspaper business for 40 years. I got some great advice. I was talking to Ann West. I said, you know, I would like to be a teacher. She said, Les, why don't you try subbing for a while? At that point, at that time, I found out I'm not tough enough to be a teacher. You, the teachers, it is amazing what you do. It is amazing what you go through. And it is amazing what you truly teach our little ones. You are so important, each and every one of you. But I did. I said, no, that's not for me. I work at the Sheriff's Department now. At this time, we will start off with the question and answers by letting each candidate have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Mr. McCarthy, please come to the podium.
I think they changed the rules mid-game on us, Les. I think they want us sitting in the chairs. That's what we're going to do, I guess. All right, I'd like to start out by thanking the Marion County Education Association for putting this event on. You know, thank Jonathan Tuck, Barry Kerr, who are the current president and vice president. You know, not many people want that job, and they've stepped forward to do that, and we appreciate it, and we thank them for putting this event on. And also I'd like to thank all of you, the educators in Marion County, for attending this event to listen to each of us up here on the stage tonight. I'd also like to thank the other candidates for running a good race. This has been a clean race, and you know, I tell everybody that I'm not running against Patrick Sutton or running against Josh Weatherly. I'm running for the office of Superintendent of Marion County. So thank you to both of you for running a good, clean race. As teachers, all of you have very tough jobs. And, you know, I appreciate the jobs that you all do on a daily basis because, you know, you got the Literacy Act, the Numeracy Act, you got ACAP assessments, you got parental demands, you got students that's got behavior problems, you got pressure for students to graduate. There's all kinds of pressures that you've got, and all of you report daily, and you do the best job that you can under the circumstances. And I know you got a tough job, and I appreciate you, and I thank you for doing that every day. I want to talk a little bit, first of all, about a kid that I used to know. Okay, this kid came from a poor family. This kid, you know, their family didn't have much money, but this kid, you know, he progressed through school. And, you know, education was the thing that kid needed the most to be able to escape his situation. And it's because of teachers like you who put themselves out there and you do what you need to do that makes that kind of thing happen for those kind of kids. And you're to be commended for it. And it's not just teachers, it's bus drivers, it's support personnel, it's all those people. And again, I'd like to thank you very much on behalf of kids like that, because we have a ton of those kind of kids in this school system, a ton of them. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity just to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Hackleburg, and I attended schools there. I finished high school in 1986, finished as the class valedictorian of that particular class. We had some very smart kids in that class. There were some that were smarter than me, but none of them outworked me. Time. Is that 2 minutes?
set, go.
This all right, I ain't gonna stand. You know, when I left Hamilton High School in 1990 and decided I wanted to go into education, I'd be lying if I said I really understood what I was getting into, and I guarantee you didn't either. And I decided I'd pursue a career in education, and honestly, I felt a calling. I thought I could help young people. I really believed that. Sometimes you forget that, but I always thought that. And then I left there and went to UNA and graduated, and then went to Muscle Shoals High School and then on to Brilliant. I remember when I went to Brilliant, you know, in 1 year I was coaching 5 teams, teaching 6 history classes, and then they asked me to do the prom, and I said yes, believe it or not. Me and Chad Williams did the prom 1 year. I went on a senior trip a couple times and on and on. And I always found it hard to say no because I felt like I was called and I was supposed to do what I was asked to do for my community. I moved to Ewan in 2000. I moved my kids there. I built a house there. I invested in the community. I threw myself into working in that community. I've done that in every community I've been in, invested myself there because I thought it was the right thing to do. At one point, I wound up coaching 3 sports, athletic director, teaching 6 history classes, and at the same time, assistant principal. And my principal sometimes would be gone and have to sit in for him. Came to Hamilton in 2009. Got a chance to come back to my home school, my alma mater, worked there, coached there for a while. And then in 2014, Mr. Hollingsworth asked me to go to the alternative school, and I didn't want to go. He explained to me that I would be on a 10-month contract, that I would do everything that a principal does on a small level. I would go to all the principal meetings and all the conferences, and he started sending me to different places to learn. And then in 2016, he moved truancy and attendance out of the central office over to my job, crisis prevention training and all those kind of things. And I always found it hard to say no because I felt like I was called. When they started talking about maybe Miss West retiring, and the people that work with me know this is true, I was a no for a long time. I said, I'm not running. I've seen the job. I understand what it is. I understand the hours. I understand the commitment. I understand you're on call all the time. People call you 9, 10 o'clock at night. All the problems are yours, and I get that. But after a while, I started praying and thinking about it. I talked to some friends. I talked to my church. I talked to my family. I talked to everybody I thought that knew. I talked to other superintendents, some who were bivocational pastors, and I kept praying. And eventually, I felt the call. And so I'm just here to say that that's why I'm here. I'm going to do my very best. I promise you I'll set high expectations, and I'll work tirelessly to help us all meet them. And if you'll help me, we can answer the call together. So I just ask for your vote on March 5th. Thank you.
Well, I too want to say what Mr. McCarley said. I do appreciate this opportunity to address you guys. After all, we're going to be in charge, and we know that it takes a team to make the dream work, and you guys are where it happens at. I'm proud to see some of my staff here today because we've done some amazing things that I think many of us didn't think we could accomplish, but proud to see them and proud to see you guys here. But to tell you a little bit about myself, if you don't know, I am Josh Weatherly. I'm married to Karen Weatherly, who's a special ed teacher. I have 2 children in the system. I have a 7th grader and a 4th grader. You know, one of the things that I do when I interview teachers, because I want to get people that are good quality people on my staff, I ask them, I say, what is the top 3 things to you in life? And I've had people tell me that that's one of the toughest questions that I ask during the interview, but in that question I find out who those people are. So to me, I'm going to give you my answers for what I would ask myself. First, God is the most important thing to me. Every decision I make, every move that I make, I want God involved. And I personally believe that that's why Ewan Elementary has been successful as it has. Because we put God first, we've prayed together, we've talked together, we've coached together, we've done all those things. So, and second is my family. I love my 2 boys, love going to watch them play baseball and soccer and all those things that I get to do and to travel with them. So God first, family second, and then my job and my school family. I take a lot of pride in the people that I work with. We've been through some battles. Some of us have battled cancer. Some of us have, had babies and all that stuff. And I want to make sure that if they're under my care, that I take care of them, and I hope they know that. To tell you a little bit about my educational experience, my dad was in the military, so at a young age I had to move a lot. I started my educational career, I guess you would say, at I believe it was Logan Heights Elementary in El Paso, Texas, which is where I was born. My dad was transferred to Germany, where I went to Wurzburg Elementary School, and then I came back and I graduated from Hackleburg High School. After that, I went to UNA. Well, I went to Northwest, got 2 degrees from UNA. And then from that, I taught. I was able, my first job was at Brilliant and Guin Split Day. I went from there. Guin hired me the second year to be a full-time teacher, and I finished my teaching career as a 6th grade math teacher, which we excelled. We were the top scoring class in the system. The next 10 years plus, I've been the principal at Guin Elementary School, and I think about year 4 or 5, we did things that we didn't even know were possible. You know, we started getting recognitions like the National Blue Ribbon, the National Distinguished School, and the #1 standout school in the state for 22-23, and actually the #2 school this year behind a school in Saraland. From those opportunities, I've been able to go share in Orlando, Florida. I've been to the university. There were over 60 questions submitted by members of Marion County educators. We had some questions that came from paraprofessionals. We had questions from the regular ed teacher. We had questions from principals. I have made a list of the questions that all were asked anonymously, and I will be giving a copy of the questions asked after this is over. So they'll know your concerns, even though your question may not have been asked tonight, and I had a lot of good questions. I only did 12. And the other questions, though, will be presented to each candidate, so they'll know your concerns at Brilliant, Hackleburg, Phillips, Hamilton, and Guin. They will know your concerns. I thought that was a good idea. I asked a couple of my friends. They thought it was a great idea. So, like I said, each question they will read anonymously, no names on it, but I want you to know that you've been heard, and that's what this is about tonight. Like I said, all 3 of these are my friends. I go way back with all 3 of them. We have a tough decision to make with this election. It's our next 4 years of our boss. So I encourage everyone to get out and vote. Encourage your neighbors to get out and vote, because this is about our children. All this is about our children. It's not about us. It's about our love of teaching, and it's about our love of the children. So at this time, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. When they say time, zip it. We're going to keep it on the move, right? I'd like to thank again my timekeepers. I would really like to thank my friend Les Walters for doing this tonight. And let's begin.
What do you see as the major issues facing our school district? And how do you plan to address these issues?
The 2 biggest issues I see in facing our school district, #1 is our attendance. Our student attendance is not good overall in the school district. A lot of schools in the school district have over 20% chronic absenteeism rate, so that's something that we've got to address right away to figure out ways to get our kids to come to school on a more regular basis. Another thing that I see is we need to have less apathy in the realm of academics. We need to put a bigger focus on academics, and we need to make it the #1 priority of educating our students and having high expectations for our students, that they excel beyond even what they think they can do. And I think that's the biggest things that we have facing us as a school district. You know, we have other things. We have some, low funding. When you have low funding, you have to make decisions sometimes that makes the best use of those dollars. And I'm a person that can make a decision. So you can rest assured, if I'm in the office of superintendent, that I will make the best decisions that I can that benefit the students in this school system, because they will always be the #1 priority.
So I'll agree with the first one. Let me take that one, though, and I'll answer how we're going to fix it. So when we talk about attendance, not truancy, but we're talking about chronic absenteeism. The two grades that always miss the most school are kindergarten and 12th grade. Part of that's because 5-year-olds are not required by law to attend school, and because after you're 17, you're not required by law to attend school. And of course, you get senioritis as well. On the high school end, we've got to work really hard to make sure that our students see a value in coming to school. One way I want to do that, I want to look at bringing back co-op in all of our schools, not just part of our schools. I would also like to address the idea and look at possibly bringing back early dismissal, because when you have a senior who's sitting through half of the day that they don't need, that's not really something they need to be a part of, I think we need to explore ways to make sure that they understand that it's valuable that they are there. I think we also need to work hard to try to make sure that parents on both ends of the spectrum understand how much we want them to trust us, how we value them, how important they are. And then another concern that I've heard a lot that I think is really important is that I want to make sure that I'm the most visible superintendent we've ever had. If you look at what I've done as county athletic director, you might not think that's important, but I've tried really hard to be at as many events as I possibly can. And so I would say that working with our team at the central office, I want to put a calendar in place where each person in that office is expected to be in a school on a certain day, not a surprise. Everybody knows they're coming, just so we're there, we know what's going on. If we plan it, we'll do it. You know how it is. If you don't have it in writing, then we get tied up in what we think is urgent that may or may not be when that phone call could wait. So those are a couple of things I really want to address. But number one, I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that kids see a value in being at school. If I've learned anything in doing truancy since 2016, it's this: you cannot make people go to school, but you can win them.
So I agree with most everything my colleagues have said. A couple different thoughts that I have. One, I think, is accountability, whether it's accountability for parents, teachers, administrators. I think we all need some accountability. I think what Coach Sutton had mentioned about being a visible presence at the school, I think some of that accountability comes naturally when you're there and you're present. I too want to be at the school. I don't want my kid. I got into this business because I want to help kids. So I think it's kind of bad if our kids do not know who our superintendent is. So I want to be there as much as I can be so that they actually know who their superintendent is. Another issue that I see that really kind of bothers me is their facilities. We're in about a 100-year-old building, but we try to maintain it. There are some issues there. In fact, one was on social media today, but some things are just kind of out of our hand. We have to, we turn it in, we do what we got to do. But I think, when we have break rooms that have issues in one community, and we have a gym who leaks in another community, and you have just different facility issues, it's hard for our kids to concentrate on things if the facility's not proper for them. So I would say that probably two of my big things, along with what they have said, is our facilities need to be up to standard, and there is an accountability issue right now, and I think our presence will bring a lot of that into order.
Oh, sorry. Too much.
They were talking about truancy. If you ever want to hear some great stories, L.A. Tower is no longer with us, but Grable Jackson can sure tell you some great truancy stories. Based on the agreement between the City of Hamilton and the Marion County Board of Education, how do you plan on ensuring equitability for the remaining county schools? We will start now with Mr. Sutton.
So I'm really glad that this question was asked, because the first thing I want to stress is that we had 5 board members who unanimously agreed to that agreement. I think that needs to be underscored. All 5 of those board members, along with the superintendent, sat in a series of meetings over a period of, I think, months, and met with the city council. And so when you have concerns about the agreement, you need to address them to your board member. You need to make sure that they understand what your questions are, and then you can get an opportunity for really understanding the agreement. I would say, I wasn't in those meetings, but it's clear to me that all 5 board members felt that if they didn't agree to that agreement, then it would be detrimental to the rest of our system. I wasn't there, but that's what they clearly thought. So they agreed to that with the city of Hamilton. As a result, there are things in it that we are bound to, because our superintendent signed it on behalf of the board with the board present, and that is a 10-year agreement. That includes, of course, the gym that's being built. It includes a donation to the track. Most of the money for the track, of course, is paid for by the city of Hamilton, and it includes some other things, finishing the elementary school project, which is going to be a challenge because the PSCA money that we got to do that with was not enough to cover the project because of inflation. We can only do the front two wings, so the back two wings have not been started, and we'll have to plan that out using capital outlay money over the next 2 or 3 years to be able to get that done. So it's going to be a challenge. And when you look at what's happening right now with our sales tax revenue, we've had 3 months in a row of sales tax declining in our school system. That is going to be a challenge. Now, the answer to the question is how to be equitable. And one way I would say to that is we have a 5-year capital plan. I looked at it recently. There's some things in there that I really like in other communities. For example, in Bear Creek, it is in our capital outlay plan, already there to address the temporary classroom that's out in the back area there that the library and stuff is in. There's some other things. We have to put those priorities in there and follow them as much as we can.
Mr. Weatherly.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a man of my word. If you're in an agreement, that ship has already kind of sailed. I think that we have to honor the agreement. At the same time, I do know that there are needs at the other schools. And so the first way that if I'm superintendent, I want to walk through each of the buildings with the school administrator and walk through and see what the needs are for each of those campuses. At that point, I had recently told a group that I spoke to that I believe that there should be, we need to take ratios of our kids. If 50% of the kids come from Hamilton, then we probably need to look at 50% of the money being in Hamilton. That being said, there's still another pot of 50%. It shouldn't be one area sucking all that money up. So we do have legitimate needs when it comes to break rooms and gyms, like I mentioned earlier. So we have to honor our agreement, but we need to prioritize, the first things first. So when we start having things, we cannot have kids in a break room that's flooding. That's not acceptable. So we need to address those needs, and we're not going to know it unless we're out of that office and we're walking around with our administrators finding out what needs to be done first.
Mr. McCarley.
Okay, first of all, I don't feel like we need to be pitting, Hamilton against the rest of the county and the rest of the county against Hamilton. I think we all need to come together and be one school system and everybody be on board. Hamilton staying in the system, in my opinion, was a big, big plus for the school system. If you look around, most of the tax base is in Hamilton, and that's where most of the local revenue is generated. So it's very important that, the other schools, I think, realize that, but you can rest assured, I've worked at all the small schools except Hewitt. I'll take care of the small schools just like I'll take care of Hamilton as your superintendent. And I'll treat every school fairly. And again, the available money that we've got, you can rest assured it'll be put toward the students in this county to make sure that they're taken care of. Thank you.
We'll start on this question with Mr. Weatherly. What positive change or practice have you initiated within your current position that you would like to implement as superintendent?
So when I took over at Union Elementary School, I personally don't see whether you got money, whether you don't have money. I just believe all kids can do what we expect of them. So one of the first things that I did is I started comparing schools in the area. And even schools outside the area. So I looked at Hoover, I looked at Huntsville, I looked at Haleville, I looked at Winfield. And so what I started realizing is, we're not that far off from where these schools are. We can do this. So I think the biggest thing that I implemented was that, of course, our school was a good school. I mean, we had good things going for us. But like I mentioned earlier, I think that in year 4 or 5, we kind of made a turn because we realized that we can do bigger things. And now it's just the culture of UN Elementary School. If we're not at the top, we're disappointed. And it's not just, I've told my staff this before, it's not about being the top. It's about turning out the best kids that we can so that our high schools can be successful. So I think that what I brought to the table was another, maybe some more accountability, some more expectations, setting a high standard. One thing's for sure, if we don't set the standard, we're never going to make the standard. So I want to set the standard, and I believe our kids can perform. I remember being at UNA in a classroom, I guess it was when PowerPoint started coming out, and some second graders came in and presented to us how to do PowerPoint. I'm like, you know, this is amazing. I don't even know, at the time, I didn't even know what it was, really. But I believe that kids, no matter what we put on them, as long as we're fair and we understand how they learn, I believe they'll reach the mark at what you set it. So I want to set a high standard, and I think I have at UNA Elementary.
Mr. McCarley.
Could you ask that again?
What positive change or practice have you initiated within your current position that you would like to implement as superintendent?
Okay, when I transferred to Hamilton Elementary School, the first thing I did was I went in and revamped the structure of the schedule, the daily schedule, to make more use of the available instructional time. Before I got there, I think a lot of time was probably wasted, and the scores weren't where they needed to be. Matter of fact, they were very low before I got there. But within the end of the first year after revamping the schedule, by implementing a set schedule for Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction, I implemented 30 minutes of reading and 30 minutes of math, Tier 2 instruction, every single day in our elementary school. It's on a set schedule. People have to do it at a certain time. I feel like that's been one of the most important things that's helped our school go to the levels that we're currently at. At the end of the first year, we had an 88 on our first report card. At the end of the second year, we had moved up to a 91, an A, one of only 2 schools in the school systems that have that. And that's a tribute to, I think, those structures put in place and the culture that was built to have very high expectations of everybody. That includes the faculty, and that includes the students. You know, we had a motto last year, hammer down. What that meant was that we came to school and we came to work every day to give our maximum effort as teachers, as principal, as instructional aides, as lunchroom workers, and as the students. We wanted Hamilton Elementary School to be the very best it could be, and you know, we're on track to making that happen. I want to make that happen for the entire school system. And I know how to do it because I also did it when I was at Brilliant. We had an A on the state report card when I was down there. So I know the process it takes to make that happen, and I'm looking forward to making that happen at the places in the county that that's not currently the case.
Mr. Sutton.
So first of all, I think we need to be clear about what we're talking about. We're talking about the executive leadership position of the largest employer in Marion County. Over 400 employees, over 3,200 students. And why is that important? When I came into the office in 2019, when you first get there, it's really hard to imagine until you're there just how big of a job it really is. And I still don't think I fully understand it because I don't think you can until you're sitting in that job. So I think the number one thing that you have to bring into that position is a well-rounded background of being able to handle multiple things at one time, which I've done. I think you have to be able to interact with people. You have to have communication skills. You have to be able to sit and listen. You have to be able to meet with community leaders. You have to be able to meet with parents. You have to be able to meet with your principals and all those different groups and work in multiple ways, whether you're dealing with, you're not running one part of the system. You're in leadership for the entire system. And I think when we look at it that way, and you're sitting and doing a job interview, you need to look and consider who best fits in an executive leadership position of that size. And I think when you look at all the things that I've done in different ways, in different places, even outside of education and the different roles that I've held, I feel that I'm the most prepared as you can be, because I'm convinced that nobody really understands that job till they sit in it. But I think as I'm as prepared as you can be for that job.
Teachers are instructional leaders of the classrooms, and principals are the instructional leaders of the schools. How do you plan to be the instructional leader of Marion County schools? Let's start off with Mr. McCarley.
Okay, just like, currently I'm the instructional leader at Hamilton Elementary School. I go around constantly to classrooms and look and see what people are doing, making sure people are having high expectations of their students. Their students are engaged on a daily basis. They're teaching the standards that are required by the state. They're taking care of all the requirements that are necessary for students to be able to, like in our current situation, to go on to the 4th grade from the 3rd, making sure they've taken care of all the requirements of the Literacy Act. As your superintendent, I plan to go around to all schools and make sure that everybody is doing their job and everybody's doing their job at a high level, with a lot of support and encouragement from me. You're not going to be asked to do anything as a staff that I wouldn't do myself. I've done everything that that you could be asked to do. I've cleaned toilets just like some of you have. I've coached. I've been an athletic director. I'm the only K through 12 principal, the only person with that K through 12 experience on this stage. I know what all of you experience. I know what the standards are at every grade level. I've been there. I've been where you are. So you can rest assured that as the superintendent, I will be an instructional leader. And I will be around on each campus to make sure that our students are being given the best opportunities that they can be given. And I'll be around often, just as I am in classrooms often currently.
Mr. Sutton.
I think in any leadership position, the first thing you have to do is set high standards for yourself. And I've tried to do that. And I'm really proud. It may be a local campaign, but I'm really proud of what we've done in our campaign, because I made up my mind in the beginning that whatever we put out, I wanted it to be excellent. I've tried to do that in my church life. I've tried to do that in my work life, whether it was going to school or whether it was, in any role that I've had, in any job that I've had. I've always tried to give our kids the best. I wanted to build a new field at Ewan because I wanted our kids to know that they could have what anybody else had. And it was hard. It was difficult. And we did it without Board of Education funding, but we were able to get it done. Same thing with Hamilton, the improvements on the softball field and the hitting house and all the things we've done. When you hold yourself to a high standard, then it's easier to hold everybody else to a high standard and to set the example for excellence, that everything we do, every communication we have, every meeting we have, everything we do, we're going to strive for excellence in everything.
Mr. Weatherly.
So, to be an instructional leader, I think Coach Sutton, again, that he's right on that. But I believe as a system, and even as a school, that, it would be good if the superintendent actually came to some of your faculty meetings. I'm not there to run your school, even though I'm there to help assist that. But I think the very first thing, just like I did when I was at Ewan Elementary School, where are we going? What do we want to accomplish? If we don't set those goals and those standards, we're not going to meet the mark. So I think to be the instructional leader, you have to set the goal. You have to expect the goal to be done. And just like Mr. McCarley said, if you're not inspecting what you expect, it's not going to happen. And I know you guys have heard that term probably a lot, especially if you've been through ARI. But I do believe it. I'm in my rooms constantly. I even try to find excuses sometimes if something needs to be delivered so I can kind of keep an eye on what's going in those buildings. So I just think that you need to be present. You need to set high standards.
How do you propose to give each employee in the Marion County school system a $20,000 bonus? I'm kidding. Why are you interested in this position? What can we expect from you as superintendent? And what do you expect from us, Mr. Sutton?
I really think I've already answered that, and I don't care how corny that might sound, it's true. I really believe in a job of this magnitude, you have to have a sense of duty, sense of calling. I can promise you I'm not pursuing this for title. I'm not pursuing it for a raise. I really believe that 30 years of my experience and my career has prepared me for this moment. I genuinely believe that. I think that I'm ready for that. Is it something that I know I'll enjoy every minute? If you know anything about the job, you know there are lots of days where it's not enjoyable because there's stress, there's difficulty involved. But I will expect from myself to work tirelessly every day I will give everything that I have every day. I always have in everything I've ever done, every community I've been in. And the question asks, what will I expect from you? I'll expect you to give your very best and pursue excellence. You know, there's no excuse for not giving your best effort. I've said for a long time, there are people that might be smarter, they might be better looking, they might be more talented, but nobody will give more of themselves to the job than I will, and that's all I expect.
Mr. Weatherly,
Can you repeat the question one more time?
why are you interested in this position? What can we expect from you as superintendent? And what do you expect from us?
So two of those, I believe, can be the same. I expect you to love these kids. I know that if there's going to be a future at all, I mean, if you look at what's going on in the news, California, different places like that, somebody did not love somebody along the way, because if they loved them, they wouldn't be on the streets burning down buildings, doing those things. So I think at first and foremost, is love the kids. I believe that every decision that I make has to filter through that love, and if it's not kids first, then it's not going to work out. And I believe sometimes if you may be upset with some decision that I make, but you go home and think about it, was what he did really about the kids? And if you can say yes, which I hope you can, then that's what it's going to be about. So I expect myself to love kids, I expect you to love kids, and I expect you to give them the best effort that you can give them day in and day out.
Just to expand on what Mr. Weatherly said, the primary reason I'm running for this position is I feel like I'm the most experienced person with a wide realm of experience to lead this school system and to do what's best for our kids. You know, some of my experiences, I spent 20 years in the military, so I've got that experience. I've been at various schools. I've held various jobs, like I've mentioned before. I've coached. I've been a teacher. I've taught at all grade levels. I've taught elementary PE. I've taught high school math. I've taught at the junior college level. 10 years here at Bevel as an adjunct math instructor. So I feel like my experience up and down from pre-K up to even the junior college level makes me the most experienced candidate to know what our students need at all levels to be able to be successful in life. But the primary reason, again, is because of the students. That's why I'm in this race. And what I would expect from you is to give your best effort on a daily basis to make sure that those students have the best opportunity to leave our schools and have an opportunity to be successful by having one of the best educations anywhere in this state. That's what I would expect of you.
What plans do you have to serve our growing EL population? Mr. Weatherly first.
Well, I guess this one's for Anna. You know, I don't think that there's a perfect answer out there anywhere. We have, you know, that population is growing. I think that's a bigger problem for the federal government. But with that growing population, I think we've got to get more help. We've got to make that a priority, and we need to get people in there that can talk the talk. And when I say that, I mean they can speak the language of these kids. You know, I just recently hired an aide at my school, and one of the reasons she got the job is because she can speak Spanish. So it's a growing need, and I think that we just got to support. We got to hire some more support that actually can talk with those kids and those parents, because I know as an administrator, it's a struggle when we try to talk to them about attendance or anything like that. We need somebody on each campus that can actually talk with those parents and help our teachers teach those kids.
Mr. McCarley.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Weatherly. You know, we've got to get Anna some help from some people that can speak, you know, other languages besides English. The two that she has currently helping her, they do an outstanding job. But to my knowledge, neither one of them can speak Spanish, you know, and that's a problem sometimes. I had to call Anna one day. We had a parent call the school, and I didn't have a clue what he was saying. And I had to call Anna on the phone after school hours to be able to interpret for me what that guy was saying. And I feel like, she's stretched too thin throughout the entire school system. So one way I would address that is at least try to hire a couple of paraprofessionals that can speak English or speak Spanish and, other languages if possible to help Anna and to assist her. That's not to take away again from the two that she's got right now. They do a great job. But they're like me. They speak Southern English. But I do think that Anna could use some help, and if we could find the money, it'd be great to hire another ESL teacher. If we could find the money somewhere to make that happen, through grants or through some other source. And that's another thing I plan to do as superintendent. I intend to appoint somebody in that central office as a grant writer. Somebody needs to be in charge of finding these grants that are available and going after them on a consistent basis.
Mr. Sutton.
Well, let me say, first of all, as somebody who manages several grants, there's a lot of us in the office that do that. We work really hard to try to get as many of those things as we can. From the standpoint of what we're talking about, we all know that the federal government is basically causing this problem, but they're not giving us the funding to solve it. Now, I will tell you, when I did my doctorate, there was a group right in front of me from Russellville who did theirs together. There were 5 of them that did it together. Heath Grimes, who's the superintendent at Russellville City Schools, and they did theirs on this issue, and then they turned around and started a statewide organization on this, based on this issue. And so I've already thought about, we got somebody just right close by who has a lot of knowledge about the issue. I'm sure they know a lot about funding. I would love to bring them in and have Anna and everybody for that matter, Charlotte and Rima too, to come in and sit down with them and let's figure out what's out there, what's available, what can we do. There are a lot of things we'd like to do. For example, I would love to have a center at the central office, but I always come back to how are you going to bus somebody from Bear Creek whose mom works over in Haleville and she can't drive him. We can't run a bus to 5 communities and pick up kids all over the county and bring them there. We have to figure out those things. I run into the same thing in alternative school, by the way. Transportation is hard. So we have to figure those things out. But I think there are some ideas out there. I'd love to sit down with Heath and some of those folks from Russellville and see what they're doing, what they have done, and go from there. But funding is the biggest challenge.
What would be your plan for removing all mobile units in Marion County, Mr. McCarty?
Well, first of all, you got to have money, okay? So, the biggest problem we would have would be securing enough funding to do that because, the state would have to provide most of that funding, and they do that through bond issues and other means, and it seems like they only do those kind of things every few years. So I won't sit up here and make a promise that those would be removed immediately because it all comes down, we can sit up here and say this and say that, but it all comes down to money. And that's going to be one of the biggest things that we've got going forward is we're going to be coming off of a sugar high of federal COVID money. We've had $16 million in this system for about the last 3 years. It's not going to be there going forward after this next year. At the end of this school year, that's running out. So it's going to be a challenge to fund those things. Would I like for all those mobile units to be removed? Absolutely. I would like for all of our kids to be able to be inside nice buildings and to be able to have their classes and whatever they're doing inside a nice building. But I also know from a financial standpoint that may not be possible immediately. But it will be something that as your superintendent, I will pursue every avenue available to try to obtain money to make that happen.
Mr. Sutton.
I mentioned one of those is already on the capital improvement plan. Now, I believe the initial estimate for that was $300,000, and I think that estimate was before COVID, and that's hard to believe that it was that much. When you add inflation, you're back to what Gary mentioned, which is we're talking about numbers that are hard to deal with, especially when you're coming off of expired money and those kind of things. Now, with that being said, I'm hopeful that if you look at the budget the governor's proposed, there may be some more stuff coming. I know the money that went through the lieutenant governor's office, hopefully we'll get some more money out of that in the future when you look at what other school systems got around us. There was one that got 0. We did better than that. There was another one that got quite a bit more. So hopefully if we can put some pressure on our legislative group, we can get some more money there. But, you know, it's always going to be a challenge when it comes to facilities, and things have skyrocketed in the last few years in an effort to try to, you know, keep up with those prices. It makes it even harder, but certainly all of us would like to replace all of those units if we can.
Mr. Weatherly?
You know, I'm pretty much a realist. And if you look at that, a lot of those mobile units have been around for a long time. And I agree with Coach Sutton. I think that every one of us would love to do away with those. But when I look at the system as a whole, and I see some of the issues that we have with our facilities that we have right now, how can we justify spending $300,000 when we got classrooms that have issues within those walls? So it's a dream, and it's great, and I hope we can do it. But realistically, I don't think that's one of the top priorities, and I know that's probably not what some people want to hear, but I know that none of us could promise that. And we can hope for that, and we can do the best we can for that. And I think right now, when you're looking at that, right now the lieutenant governor's in a happy mood. He's trying to buy that election for the next governorship. I think right now we need to be tapping into his office, trying to get some more money out of his office, and I think we could probably get it. And that might could get some of that ball rolling. But right now, I'm not sure that that's possible.
How will you differentiate yourself from the other candidates and the current administration? Mr. Sutton?
Well, first of all, I think having worked at the district level, I think is an important thing to be able to look at that. If you go back and you look over the last 30 plus years and you look at different time periods and how it's went, I think you'll find a trend in that area. And so I think if you've never been in that office, I think it's an advantage to have been there and to see how it works. In terms of differentiating between where we are, I've already mentioned some things I'd like to do. I would like for us to have, again, and y'all do the same thing in your world. If you come in the morning and Mr. McCarley wants to go observe some classes and he has that on his schedule, well, he might get 2 phone calls from a parent, and Miss Jones has an issue she wants to talk to him about, and Erica has one, and the next thing you know, it's already 11 o'clock and we didn't get to go to those classrooms. Well, the same thing happens in our world. This morning, I think it was 10 o'clock before I finished answering emails and phone calls, and that's not a complaint, it's just how it goes. And so what you have to do is put it on a calendar and say, on February this day, I'm going to this school, and this person is going to this school, and this person, and we may not all want to go the same day, of course, but I think that's a big thing, and it's important that we make those commitments to say that for us to be in the school where the most important work is being done, we have to commit to that, and it's something I plan to do if elected.
Mr. Weatherly?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I want to emphasize to people is I think it's very important for us to be present in those buildings. So, to me, that's going to be the biggest difference, is you will see me. The kids will see me. You know, there's times now, of course, I like the fact that at UN Elementary School, I can go from time to time and sit in the lunchroom and talk to the teachers and kind of hear what's going on, hear about life and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that's a bad thing for a superintendent either. I mean, we all eat those lunches. Why can't the superintendent eat those lunches? Why can't we spend time with those kids? So I think the difference that you're going to see with me is I will be present. I will be there for your kids. And I think that's the biggest difference for me. And I don't know, as far as a person, how I can prove that any more than what we've accomplished. I mean, our school's sitting at the top every year. The only reason for that is because God has put me in this position with some great people, and we've been able to accomplish that. So the whole accountability thing, the whole high expectation thing, that's what's going to make me different. If you want difference and you want to be the best, I want to help get you there, and I want you to push me there. But I think that's what you're going to see the biggest difference in me and the current administration.
Mr. McCarley?
Biggest difference in me, I guess, compared to where we are is the expectations are going to be, you know, raised even higher than what they are right now. I feel like everybody, from the staff, the students, bus drivers, lunchroom workers, I feel like everybody can do their job better. I feel like you just have to make a commitment to it. And I feel like as a superintendent, you need to get out in the schools and you need to know what's going on. And rest assured, I'll be out in the schools, and if you're working your rear end off, you can rest assured that I will support you, and I will have unwavering support for you, and I will be encouraging you, and I'll provide you all the resources that I can to help you do your job better, as long as you're giving the effort to make our students look and be the best that they can be.
Give a plug here for our lunchroom workers. I've eaten at the Hamilton Elementary, Hamilton High, and Hackleburg. Hey, that food's good. I don't know if everybody else likes it. I liked it. I do not know about the Pepitos. Is that what they call it? Crispitos. I wasn't a fan. No, Crispitos, no. But I ate good food. I ate really good food. Goes back to Red Level High School. I ate good food there too. Okay, what are your plans to increase student achievement in all grades? Mr. Weatherly.
Well, you gotta set the bar. I mean, I don't think there's been anybody better, that I can think of that has set the bar high and we've achieved it. So, you know, I don't have a magic pill for that, but if we don't expect it, we're not gonna get it. So we just gotta set the expectation up. Will you read it one more time, make sure I'm covering it all, but I think it comes down to expectation.
Sure. What are your plans to increase student achievement in all grades?
I think I've answered the question.
Mr. McCarley.
Okay, I think to increase expectations across, first of all, you got to make sure all your staff are trained. You know, if they need AMSTI training, if they need letters training, or whatever the case may be, you got to make sure they're trained to be able to teach with the best practices that are, you know, going current. And I can say my experience at Hamilton Elementary School, we've trained all of our staff in letters. We've trained all of our staff in AMSTI. And, you know, we're constantly retraining them as the state changes what's necessary. We've got some teachers we just changed in, are just trained in science that they're having to go back and get a foundations class. Well, we're providing that with the help of Mr. Dulaney. So my expectation would be high academic standards, train the staff so that they can best implement the best practices to make that happen.
Mr. Sutton.
So I think sometimes the best answer is the simplest. The number one factor in student achievement has never changed, and it's attendance. If you can get a student sitting in front of a quality teacher, you're going to have better student achievement. And we've got to work on attendance, and I'm not talking about truancy. I said this earlier. If I've learned anything since when I took attendance and truancy in 2016, it's that you cannot make kids go to school. Now, I just had an early morning meeting today, so all you people that are watching, if you were there, I mean, everything I said, we'll file, we'll take you to court, we'll do all those things. But at the end of the day, when you get to juvenile court, there's a limited range of things that can happen. And the reality is that we have to find ways to help kids want to value school, help parents believe in us, trust in us, and we got to do everything we can to attack the attendance and make sure that kids are coming to school as much as we can, because the better your attendance, the better your achievement's going to be, because they're actually going to be present. Some of that was affected negatively by COVID. I saw something the other day that said attendance nationwide was way down since COVID. Well, hopefully we'll come out of that a little bit, but part of it just means that we're going to have to focus on it, and that means that we're going to have to come in every day and make sure we're on top in each school of who's there, who's not, make sure we're communicating to those people and working to make it better.
How will you ensure equitable opportunities for all students to become college and career ready when many of the schools do not have the same opportunities for electives or career technical courses? We will start with Mr. McCarley.
Well, there's multiple ways, you know, to become college and career ready. You can benchmark on the ACT on certain areas of it. You can join the military. You can make a passing score on the work keys, the ACT work keys, score it to silver level or higher, or you can credential in like ag classes, family consumer science classes, business tech classes, whatever. What we have to do is try to expand on all those programs throughout the county when we can. But where we can't, I found that probably I won't call it easy, but the best way probably to get college and career ready credential is to make the score on the ACT work keys. And I feel like, you know, as superintendent, I want to push that and provide the principals with the resources they need so that they can get their students where they need to go in that area if that's the area that they need to pursue. Again, there's lots of areas that they can pursue to get that credential, and you know, it's just whatever fits best for that school and the students at that school.
Mr. Sutton.
So I certainly know the work keys is a big part of that, but I would also say, you know, I've had a lot of experience working with people outside of our system, and I want to sit down with Bevel, and I want to sit and talk with Northwest Community College and figure out how we can offer more career tech paths, how we can get more kids in those. If that includes more dual enrollment, if that includes more co-op, anything that we can do to get our kids interested in careers, get them interested in working, we've got to focus on that because that best serves our community. And so I want to sit and look at that. And no option is off the table. In other words, if that means that we have to tinker with some scheduling to make it work so that our times match up with Bevel or our times match up with Northwest, then I'm open to that. Whatever we got to do to make sure that our kids have every opportunity to pursue those career paths and to help them with that area.
Mr. Weatherly.
So I think access is a big part of that. I would love to see some more access classes offered to our students that don't have opportunities at other schools. But I also know of a certain situation right now in the county where we have students who want to be a part of the tech program, but it feels like the principal may be having to fight to get those kids where they need to be. So I think when we have situations like that, we need to get with our principals and our teachers, and if we want our kids to excel, we need to make every effort we can to get those to those technical programs at Bevel or wherever we can offer those. So I think first we've got to support our students, and we've got to support our administrators. They're out there in the field. They know exactly what these students need. And it breaks my heart to know that right now the kids maybe at one of our locations can't get those classes that they need just because we don't want to bend over a little bit to make sure that happens. So I think we need to offer everything that we can. And I'm an elementary guy. I don't have all the answers for a lot of things, but I do have a good friend in Mr. Borland who's working with the tech program, and I know he does a phenomenal job, and I'm more than willing to meet with him and meet with with Bevel or even, Winfield offers some things. So I think even if we got to have meetings with them to offer our kids the most we can give them, we need to do whatever it takes to make sure that those kids are ensured the best education.
What is your position on outside agencies such as Spur being used to employ not only our paraprofessionals, but our bus drivers and lunchroom staff as well? We will start with Mr. Sutton.
So in looking at this issue, I found that there's some pros and cons to the issue with aides. I don't know of any reason why we would do that with the other support staff at the time. My understanding in talking to our people who are involved with that is that there are some real reasons why aides were switched over to Spur, and then there's also some reasons though why maybe it doesn't always work the best. I think it's something we'll have to look at, but I would say that it's really difficult when you have a student who say starts at Gary School in kindergarten, and when he gets to third grade he moves out of the system and his aide is left behind, and he or she doesn't want to go to another school. Then there's some hoops you have to jump through if that person is tenured. There's some issues with that. And so that's part of the reason that came up. And I don't think it was primarily a money issue. It does save money, but I think there are other issues as well. And so I've asked some questions on that, certainly something to look at, but as far as those other positions, I don't know of any reason why we wouldn't leave them the way they are.
Mr. Weatherly.
Well, I'll just be honest with you, I despise Spur, and I think most of your principals that probably deal with them do. I feel like my hands are kind of tied on certain things. We recently had an issue where my aides were not on docket for working Friday, and instead of being able to handle that issue myself, I had to get other people involved to try to get with Spur. I go back to the simple fact, treat others like you want to be treated. I just hired a bilingual aide at Ewan Elementary School. How long do you think I'm going to be able to keep her if somebody comes along and offers her good pay with benefits somewhere else? So if we're going to keep good people, if we're going to have to offer them benefits and things like that. And so I would not want to work in that. And if I did work in that, then I'm probably going to be looking for the first job that comes along with benefits and pay. So I'm against that. I would look into other ways to try to get away with that. And we may not get away from that. But I definitely don't think we start going down avenues where we're doing secretaries and bus drivers and all that kind of stuff, because I don't approve of it now, and I don't think we can keep our best employees by doing that.
Mr. McCarley.
Okay, first of all, I don't like Spur either. But, we have to use it. It's what we've got. And, sometimes you just got to suck it up and do it, as they say. But I understand when we went to Appleton, I believe it was initially, the reason we went to it was because of money, I feel like was the primary reason. All of you know that our special education population has skyrocketed. And a lot of those kids, have multi-handicaps, and those students require some one-on-one assistance. And it's much cheaper. You can make your money go further because the federal budget is not expanding very much. It's been level funded for the most part. And you can make that money stretch further if you're not paying benefits for all those aides. So that's exactly, in my opinion, why we went to that system. And in my opinion, that's why we probably won't be able to go back. Unfortunately, I wish we could. As far as the other, support people that we have, bus drivers, lunchroom workers, I would never advocate putting them on a system like Spur. I think it's important that they have the benefits that they've got, and that, we keep it the way it is. Again, I'd like to take the Spur employees back and provide them benefits. But as I've said all along, it all comes down to money. And we're coming off the sugar high of COVID, and we're going back to reality. And, I just don't. I may be surprised at the money that's available, but I doubt it. We are the lowest of the low when it comes to funding. We're at 10 meals, which is the minimum required by the state of Alabama. So we don't have a lot of revenue coming in.
How would you make sure that all of our facilities in the county are well maintained? Mr. Weatherly.
Well, I think I've kind of addressed that a little bit earlier, but I think at first we have to address the issues, and we're not going to know unless we're out in those school buildings. So again, I'd like to reiterate, I think I need to walk around with the principals. They need to tell me their needs. Once we get back, we find out how much money we got, and then we start prioritizing what those needs are. And there are some major needs in this system, but we're not going to know about them unless we get out into our facilities and find out what the principals think about those buildings. So we need to address the need and prioritize the biggest needs first.
Mr. McCarley.
As Mr. Weatherly says, we've got to get out. We've got to talk to the principals. We've got to talk to the people in the community in those schools and find out what the biggest needs are, and we've got to prioritize. We've got to take the available funding we've got, and we've got to prioritize what needs to be done first, and we've got to do it. But the main thing is we've got to not have any excuses. We've got to find a way to get some stuff done. There's bleachers on the football stadium at Bear Creek that were crumbling when I was there, and they're crumbling today. They need to be replaced. Stuff like that. We've got to find money to be able to fix stuff like that. My understanding is the roof on the bus shop is in bad shape. We got to figure out a way to get that kind of stuff fixed. That's one of the goals that I have on my platform, is to fix the things that need to be fixed. And again, the way you do that is you prioritize the available money you got, and you expect the people that you got to go make that happen.
Mr. Sutton.
Let me say, first of all, our maintenance people do a phenomenal job. And they don't always know everything because sometimes, they don't always, get those orders and all that kind of thing when they need to. But they do a great job. And so I think all of us would say basically the same thing, which is, we want to be out in the schools. We want to be making sure that things are getting done. I know there's some plans in place for some of the things that have been mentioned here. I would also say this, though. If you ask the people that I work with on a daily basis, they would tell you, I believe, I'm confident in this, that I always answer my phone or I call you back. I'm always a listener. I'm always available. There's never a moment, even if it's not my responsibility, if you call me, I will say, you know what, I don't know, but I will find out. And the reason that's important is, we do need to be in the schools, but we also need to be accountable to you. We need to be available to you. We need to make sure that we know what's going on at all times. And I can assure you I'll always listen to you and be ready to give you an answer.
I believe all three candidates have answered each question very honestly, very candidly. They've done a super job. Don't you agree? I think they have done extremely, extremely well. So now we're going to give them 3 minutes each.
One more thing, a plug for my counselors. Each school system in this county needs a full-time counselor, K through 6, and then 7 through 12. We desperately need counselors in each school system, not just in Marion County. I'm talking about all schools need a counselor, full-time, elementary and high school. Okay, now I'm going to give each candidate 5 minutes for closing remarks. I was going to say arguments, but closing remarks. We're going to start with Mr. Weatherly. Each candidate gets 5 minutes. After that, that'll be it with the debate. I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight. You can rewatch this on Marion County TV News and Events on Facebook and YouTube. So once again, thank everyone for coming out tonight. At the end, when Mr. McCarley finishes, let's give them all one more big round of applause. Once again, thank you.
If I'm finishing, you need to start this up.
So I think we're all in this business to change people's lives. And I think that probably the number one priority that we have is our kids and giving them the best education they can possibly get. If this election is about proven leadership and getting it done every day for the past 10 or 11 years that I've been principal, I think you've got a clear choice. I don't know anybody else that's done it any better. I've been willing to talk to every one of your principals when they've called me and asked me questions about how do you do this, what do you think about this? And I'll say the same, and I will say for Mr. Sutton, I can't say this everywhere, but he does answer my call, and I do appreciate that. And I think that's to be acknowledged because as a principal, we don't always get a lunchtime at a set time every day. We catch it when we can, and we're always expected, whether a teacher brings in somebody to the office to drop, our plans to eat, to take care of that need first at hand. So again, if it's about proven leadership, I hope you got a choice right here. I've been fighting with you guys in the trenches for about the last 20 years. I know that we've had curriculum changes. Sometimes, in my opinion, it wasn't justified. I believe sometimes we'll go to seminars, we'll come back, we'll think we need to change that. Well, the thing about that is it's tough on the teachers because every year we're doing something new. We got 2 or 3 new programs. And I think one of the things that we've done at Gewin Elementary School is we've stuck with programs. And when we've done that, we've had good success at it. But it's hard to stay on top when you're changing all the time. So I think that I understand your fight. I'm willing to fight with you. I've stood up. Probably one of the biggest butt chewings I got was when I had told a board member that I was trying to be forced to change curriculums that we were doing. I was warned not to go to that board member again, but from that point on, I think my teachers will attest to this. When we go to some meetings, they say, okay, maybe not you in elementary school, but you know what? I think we've earned that right. When you've been on top and you've done what you're supposed to do, I don't think we should have to change all the time. And I will fight for that as your superintendent. I want to give you the tools that you need to succeed, you know, and I'm not going to know what tools you need if I'm not at your school, so I plan on being there for you. I don't know personally what else I can possibly do. I believe, if you read the article in the paper, I believe if God can trust you with the little, He can trust you with the big. When I was a teacher, I felt like I did a good job. When I've been a principal, I felt like we've been at the top of our game. So I don't know what else I can do to offer that. One of the last things that I wanted to, I had him go get my phone for me, is I am open for coaching people. Sometimes I feel like, you know, people don't value what's going on at you in elementary school, and that's fine. But you know what? There's people in Walker County, there's people in Culver County who come to our school and want to know what's going on. So I want to end with this. This was a message from a principal at New Bethel Elementary School that came to our school. He said, "Congratulations on another great year of student achievement. It takes a lot of hard work to achieve at the level, even once, but it is special to do it consistently like you and Elementary has done. My visit to your school a few years ago was a spark for New Bethel Elementary. We have gone from an 86 to a 96 on our state report card. Thank you for sharing and for all your help. I've got people in Walker County that have come to our school. I'm open. I don't care to share what we're doing. As long as we're doing it for the kids, I don't care. I've had principals tell me when we've been at CIP meetings, we're coming after you. Good. Because who does that benefit? It benefits our kids. And if we can give them the best education, I'm all for it. So thank you. Vote Weatherly on March 5th.
Okay, I want to close by highlighting again why I want the job. It's not about me. It's about the students in this school system who need a quality education to be able to pursue their dreams when they finish high school. That's why I want this job. And I feel like I'm the most experienced candidate. You know, on my signs it says experience matters. I certainly believe it matters because I've been in your shoes at all grade levels. I've been there K through 12. I've been a principal at K through 12 level. I've taught at the K through 12 level. I've also taught at the junior college level, as I mentioned earlier. So I know up and down the grade levels what's required. I know what's expected for third graders who are finishing this year and wanting to go on to the fourth grade. I know what's expected of seniors, the ones that want to graduate, and the ones that need to be college and career ready. I know what all those expectations and requirements are from the state level. I know what it means to work and coach, drive a bus, clean the toilets, as I mentioned earlier, because I've done all of that as all of you have. I want to say that I feel that all of you are outstanding employees of this school system. All of you do a fantastic job. But as I mentioned earlier, I feel we can all do better. And if we put forth the effort, we can all eke out just a little bit more to help our students be successful. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming and listening to us as we answer these questions. A couple of things that haven't been talked about yet that I want to talk about. I want to expand the arts program throughout this county. When I was a principal at Hackleburg, I reinstated the band program. It had been cut. I reinstated the chorus, which had been cut. I started a theater program. They had never had one. So I believe in the arts. I believe they need to be expanded where we can do it. Somebody told me the other day they heard I was going to cut the art program at the middle school. That's 100% false. Never said it, never would do it. I believe in the arts program. I believe in supporting our bands. There's kids that need other opportunities besides athletics. You know, I love athletics, coached for a long time, but there's kids that are in the band and do those kind of things that need those opportunities. And I will be in 100% support of the band and athletic programs in this county. Another thing I want to do, I want to increase the pay for our coaches. I thought when I was coaching, our coaches' pay was too low then, and it hasn't improved a whole lot since then. We have raised it some, but compared to the surrounding school systems, we're still the lowest of the low. We need to do better, and as your superintendent coaches, I'll have you back, and I will find you more money. You can rest assured.
Well, we've raised coaches' pay twice in the last 3 years. As county athletic director, I've led that effort, so we're working on it. But anyway, I would say this. If you go back over, first of all of us have different experiences. There's not one person up here that doesn't have some great experience. There's not one person up here that can say they've done everything that the other two have done. But if you go back over my career and you look at the different superintendents we've had, each one of them have faced some very difficult problems. I think back to when Mr. Jackson took over, the financial difficulties that he faced were enormous. I can remember us cutting something like 30 teachers one year. We were passing around the reduction in force policy. Anybody remember that? It was tough. Proration was real. If you know what proration is, it was bad. And I was thinking, man, what have I gotten myself into in this career where we'll never even be sure we have toilet paper money? But now we're past that. And so then when Mr. Hollingsworth took over, we had still some proration that he dealt with. I think his first 3 years were proration. And then, of course, the tornado hit. And I cannot imagine being superintendent during that effort and trying to go through and deal with all of that. And when Ms. West took over, you had the COVID issue that started pretty quick, followed by the whole city school issue. Here's my point. Somebody has to be ready in January of 25 to deal with really difficult issues. And I think the experience that I have at the central office level, the experience I have in education, I've cleaned the toilets too, the experience I've had outside of education, all of those things make me ready to handle that job. It won't be easy. There's some difficult days ahead as we do come out of the COVID money we've been on, as we deal with the money that we spent out of our reserve because of the agreement that we made with the city of Hamilton that took roughly half of our reserve, and we have to have at least $3 million in reserve by law all the time. There's some difficult days ahead. And so I don't say this, as, hey, I can't wait to tackle all those problems, but I am saying that I do feel a responsibility. I feel that I'm prepared, the most prepared, and so I just ask you to vote for me on March the 5th. And I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate Jonathan and these guys for putting this together, and great opportunity to share our thoughts, and thank you for coming.
So that's it. Y'all all did good. Amazing.
Good job. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you go watch it and like it and subscribe and all that other stuff.
I just want to you'll get a bunch of views on this.
Hey, thanks for calling.
This is Anita's brother. It's my cousin Steve. I'm kid on.
Well, don't hold that against me then.
Pleasure. Said it all right. Said okay.
You sounded nice, but you made me so flipping nervous. And back and forth, I was just about to have a flipping heart attack.
Is it all right?
You're so lucky. You got more. Look what I said. I just said this to Shay. It was better than okay. He's back there hiding.